Dawn opens slowly along the water, and the tower holds the cool from night. You fold your wool cloak over one arm and lift the oil can with the other. Salt air moves inside the stair and smells sharp and clean. The first stone under your palm feels cool and dry, like a stored promise. You lean into the climb, not fast, just steady. Somewhere above, the catwalk rope gives a mild creak and settles. That small sound finds you and waits, a quiet thread to guide your morning. The stair turns around the tower core, stone to stone, curve to curve. Your hand rides the inner wall. Dust stays fine under the skin and does not cling. A mouse rustles behind a plank and forgets you. From the harbor, a boat rope answers a post with one low rub. The narrow window slits carry sea light that looks like thin milk against the steps. The smell of old oil lives in the shaft, warm but not heavy. Far away, the catwalk rope offers that same mild creak, soft as cloth pulled once across wood. You pause at a small landing and set the oil can on the sill. The metal lip is cool. The handle shows a worn polish where hands have held it. You press the cloak into a neat fold and tie it with a short cord so it will not tangle. Your tongue keeps a trace of last night's bread, plain and good. A gull writes a slow line of sound outside and leaves the rest of the sky quiet. You take the can again and climb. Above, the rope answers the wind with one small creak, then allows silence. The air thins as you near the lantern room. Stone gives way to wood. A door of stout boards waits with its iron ring dull in the blue light. You lift the latch and ease it, and the hinge offers a low sigh that does not need to be soothed. Inside, glass stands in a wide circle, clean and pale. The lens waits like calm water held in place. You set the oil can on a wooden block and feel the block's grain under your palm, honest and straight. Outside, the catwalk rope gives a mild creak, a greeting you do not answer with words. You lift the lamp housing and find the wick. It lies even but long. You trim it with a small knife and watch the edge fall, black and light, into a clay saucer. The smell is faint, like old fruit and smoke. You brush a ring of soot from the chimney with a cloth, slow and kind, until the glass turns clear. The lens rim feels cool as stone at first, and then warms under your hand. You turn the little screws a touch, not tight, just sure. The rope outside creaks once more, and the sound sits low in the morning like a simple bell made of hemp and wood. You carry the cloak out to the catwalk and hang it from a peg. Wood under your sandals holds firm. Iron bolts show a thin red bloom from sea salt, but they do not mind. Wind slides around the lantern and smells of brine and fig smoke from cooking fires on shore. Far below, the harbor gives small noises. Oars shifting, a jar set on a key, a cough tucked into wool. You taste salt on your lip and let the tongue ask for no more. The rope along the rail draws across its pulley with that mild creak you already know. It tells you the air is moving, not in a rush, only enough to wake the day. You walk the circle and watch the early surface. Water lies flat in some places and ripples like linen in others. Seaweed at the edge glows dark green, wet and steady. A goat near a low wall outside the keeper's yard noses a patch of grass and lifts its head at nothing at all. From the town, a cartwheel finds its wedge and rests with a wooden hush. The tower stones hold the night's cool. Your fingers learn it again where you lean. The rope speaks once, a soft creak, then falls quiet as the sun rises a finger above the line. You return inside and set your tools in order. Oil can to the left, wick trimmer to the right, cloth folded, saucer cleared and set dry. A bowl of fresh water from the cistern waits under a cover of clean cloth. You lift it and drink 2 slow swallows. The water tastes like cool stone and a little clay, an honest taste that leaves the mouth calm. You wet a corner of the cloth and wipe the lens rim. Light circles, no hurry. Outside the glass, a gull settles on the rail for a moment and leaves a small mark. You wash it away with the same gentle hand. The rope creak comes again, thin and kind, then fades into wind. A narrow shelf holds your wax tablet and a bit of charcoal bound to a stick. You press simple lines to remember what you see. Sky clear, wind light, water smooth at the bar. Beeswax smells warm and clean. Charcoal kisses your thumb and leaves a gray half-moon. You fold the tablet shut and tie it with a string so the marks will hold. When you set it down, the wood under it is warm where the first light has reached. From the stair hole below, you hear someone shift a bucket. The bucket mouth brushes a rung and goes still. The rope at the catwalk gives another mild creak, steady and patient. You brush dust from the sill and watch fine grains catch the light and settle again. Your shirt holds the faint smell of ash from last night's small fire in the yard. You breathe through the cloth and find wool and smoke and salt in easy measure. A rat under the floor scratch draws one line and stops. You angle the chimney to be sure no soot hides inside, then place it back with care. The lamp's band of brass warms in your grip and leaves a metal scent on your skin that is not sharp. The rope outside keeps its quiet duty. A single soft creak from time to time, like a nod from an old friend. You open a narrow shutter to let a strand of air slide through the room. The hinge gives a tiny sound and then behaves. The fresh air smells of sea and wet rope. Far out, a patch of water shines like poured oil. Nearer, a net floats, corks neat and low. A boy on the shore pulls a line to straighten a sail. You do not see him well, only the line of motion, and then the cloth resting. The tower takes those small scenes and stores them in stone. The rope answers the same wind the boy feels, mild creak, then stillness. You run your palm across the catwalk rail and feel the grain rise where the night's damp sat. You carry the cloth around once more and dry it, not to fight the sea, but to keep the hand from slipping when the hour is busy. Your stomach reminds you of bread. You pull a small heel from a pouch and chew it slow. It tastes of flour and a little smoke. You wash it with one swallow from a skin hanging on a peg. The water touches your tongue like a cool stone pressed there by an old friend. The rope creak, gentle and near, keeps you with the work, not in a rush, not asleep. You look to the tideboard near the mouth of the harbor. The wet wood shines where the last wave kissed it. Birds land and lift on the outer piles. Their wings make mild cloth sounds. Tar warms on boat ribs and sends up a sweet bite that rides with the brine. You press your hand flat on the lens frame to feel any shake, and there is none. Only the steady push of your own pulse through the wood. The rope gives its small voice again, and seems to say that the lighthouse knows its own weight. You light the lamp just a little to test the trim. Flame rises clean and even, not high, not low, a line that does not flicker. The smell of warm oil is soft and friendly. You cup the chimney to guide the air, and watch the lens catch that small, living gold and make it quiet. You shade it again so day will own the sky and the lamp will rest. The glass stays clear, the screws hold, the shelf does not tremble. The rope creak outside drifts away when a breeze shifts, then returns as the breeze comes back. A patient messenger that only brings the same good news. You clean the window frames with a dab of sand and a wet corner of cloth. Small circles, wider circles, then dry. Sand under the rag whispers. The wood under the sand grows smooth. You brush the grit into your palm and cast it into the stair shaft so it will not go back on the glass. Below, someone coughs once and carries on with a slow chore. A jar lid somewhere finds clay and settles with a low kiss. The tower accepts each sound and lets it fade. The rope offers its gentle creak again, measured and familiar, the way a wheel sounds when it finds the right path. You take the long iron hook and walk the outside ring to test the fastenings. Bolts sit tight. Ties show no fray. The lashings you made last week still lie true. Your fingers come away with a taste of salt when you touch the tongue to the nail of a hand. The catwalk boards show clean wear, not harm. You look east and see the sun come clear, pale at first, then stronger. Its warmth reaches the skin of your cheek and holds there. The rope creak softens under the new light, as if daylight itself were easing the load. You sit for a short while on the stool near the lens and let the room be a room again, not a task. The stool is plain wood. It does not wobble. Oil can, cloth, knife, tablet, bowl, all in their places. The air is even. The smell is a mix of brass, clean glass, old oil, and sea. A fly hunts along the sill and gives up. You place your palm on the lens frame one more time, then let it rest. Outside, the rope creaks once, mild and sure, and the sound hangs in the lantern room like a faint line drawn in the air. You rise, fold the cloths, and hang the brush by its loop so the bristles will keep their shape. You set the wick trimmer on the same block as the oil can, handles aligned. You pull the cloak from the peg and feel its wool weight settle on your shoulders, warm and simple. Before you close the door, you look through the glass circle at the quiet water and the slow town. Wood smoke lifts from low roofs and thins. A fisherman ties a knot and does not hurry. The rope on the catwalk gives that gentle creak once more, a last soft word from the morning. You ease the hinge and let the door rest. The sound of the rope remains in your ear as a light line of order, steady and kind, while stone cool holds your palm and the lens waits, clean and calm, for the long day. Dawn holds its seat on the water a little longer while the lantern room settles behind you. The rope on the catwalk gives one last mild creak and then forgets to speak. You draw the small bundle from your pouch and break the heel of bread. Flour dust kisses your fingers. Ash from last night's stick fire hides in the crust and gives a clean smoke taste. You chew slow and feel the jaw loosen. Far out, a gull gives a low cry and returns to silence. The sound is soft, like a bell with cloth wrapped round it. You walk the ring once and lean on the outer rail. Wood grain runs under your palm, faint lines, straight and calm. A thin pitch smell rises from the joints as the sun warms the rim. You swallow the last of the crust and roll a dry crumb with your tongue until it goes small and sweet. Below the tower, the tideboard shows calm marks in wet wood. Dark bands hold where water touched and then slid away. The gull calls again, lower now, and fades into the open morning. You pull your cloak closer at the neck and settle your shoulders to the air. Salt thins and hangs clean. It rests on the lip and stays there in a kind way. The stone ledge by your hip keeps a night cool that moves into your coat and then stops. You rest both hands on the rail and feel the grain give warmth back to your skin. Down in the harbor, a boat rope answers the tide with one slow rub. The gull returns with a small sound and leaves as if the sky had reminded it to be quiet. Your bag lies by the door with a bit of cheese wrapped in cloth. but you leave it for later. You pull the water skin from its peg and tip a little into a palm bowl. The bowl is wood and smooth as a worn bone. Water smells like clean stone. You sip and hold the cool inside your mouth, then swallow and listen. A neighbor on the quay coughs once and covers the rest with a sleeve. A goat outside the keeper's yard noses the low grass near the wall and sets one narrow hoof on stone. The gull gives its low bell again and drifts away. You brush a few crumbs from the catwalk boards and watch dust drift into the stairhole. It lands on old stone and makes no claim. Your fingers go back to the rail and read the rise and fall in the wood as if it were a page. You trace a knot and feel the hard center, smooth as a small pebble. The tideboard holds steady in your sight. Wet wood answers the sun with a slow change. Dark turns to less dark, and a thin shine walks down the edge. The gull's quiet call keeps time you do not count. You draw the wax tablet from the narrow shelf and press it against your coat to warm it. Beeswax softens and smells like clean comb in summer. You lift a strip of charcoal and mark small lines. Sky clear, wind easy. Sea level quiet at the board. The stylus scratches a dry hush, then lifts. Your thumb wears a gray ring that wipes away on cloth. The tablet returns to the shelf, tied with its string. The gull calls again, and the air seems to answer by getting even softer. You ease inward to the lantern room and set a hand on the lens frame. Glass is cool and even. The lamp chimney waits clear. A film of oil scent lingers from the test you made at dawn. You touch the wick trim and leave it. Your palm returns to the frame and holds there, not to work, only to feel the sure thing you keep. The sound from outside reaches you through the glass. A gull's low cry rides in without edge. It passes the lens, touches the brass, and leaves as a thin memory. You step back onto the catwalk and watch the outer piles by the mouth of the harbor. Seaweed holds, dark and slick, then lays down as a small surge moves past. Cork floats line a wide net in patient order. A child's laugh tries the wind from the roof of a low house, then loses its way and dies near the slope. A jar lid meets a rim down by the quay and makes a soft clay note. Your hand finds the rail again. A faint tar smell lifts from a boat rib. The gull gives its low bell once more and turns to gray on the air. You take the small cloth from your pocket and wipe the tide board with your eyes, not with hands. You read the bands as if they could speak. They only sit and shine, dark and simple. You follow the slope of the channel, where sand shows light under the top of the water. The salt taste on your lip grows easier, almost sweet with the bread that still lingers there. A rat under a plank by the yard makes one short scratch and stops. The gull calls. It sounds farther now, as if it had followed a line toward the point, and then let the sound go slack. You shift your weight and ease your back to the warm face of the tower. Stone gives its stored heat in a slow share. Your shirt smells faintly of smoke and wool. The oil can in the corner keeps a thin shine where light finds it. You take it, tilt it, and feel the weight of the day's work inside. The can speaks with a soft roll, nothing harsh. You set it back and straighten the strap so it will not cut when you carry it later. The gull gives another low ring, quick and kind, and the ring lies down across the water like thread. You think of the shore and the tiny life that waits for the tide to say yes. A shell turns, then rests. A crab feels the air and tucks under weed. A rope wakes at its post, lets a loop fall, then pulls it back into a neat round. Down the quay, cloth hangs from a line and drinks early sun. A fish smell mixes with fig smoke from a cook jar, and finds you at the height of the catwalk. You lick a flake of salt from your thumb. The gull calls in the open and then is silent, as if it too were waiting for your notes to dry. You pull the stool near the rail and sit for a while. Wood under you is plain and does not move. Your knees find their place under the cloak. You lay your hands down, right on left, to feel the pulse that keeps its own count. The tideboard holds level. Its dark band is a finger under your eye. Below the tower, a boat's oar rubs athwart and gives one low wood sound, then rests. The gull's low cry returns and floats up the stone, easy as a curl of smoke from a lamp that sleeps. You rise and walk the ring again, slow and simple, each board a known friend. You run a cloth along the handrail, not to polish, only to make it clean to touch. Dust and salt grain leave the wood and fall as if they had planned to do so all along. A coil of line waits on a peg, and you square its edge. The coil settles, flat as a loaf on a table. From the town, a mill wheel grinds once and grows quiet. The gull gives a final small call, and the air keeps it like a soft bell fading into cloth. You lean over the inner rim and watch the stair turn into shadow. A man moves below and sets a bucket down. Iron kisses stone with a gentle ring. A second man clears his throat and shares the morning with no more than that. You fill the palm bowl again and take another swallow. Water touches your tongue like a smooth pebble from a stream and leaves the mouth clean. You rinse a finger and wipe a crumb from your lip. The tideboard does not change, and you are glad of it. The gull makes one more low note and then leaves your ear alone. You gather the small cloth, the tablet, and the jar string and set them in their places by the door. Your hand finds the rail once more and rests there. Wood grain remains warm and sure. Salt sits light on skin and cloth. Smoke from a morning hearth moves into a single blue thread and disappears in the light. The harbor holds its easy face. The tideboard shines like wet bark. Somewhere out of sight, the gull's low cry rolls into quiet. You stand and let that quiet settle on you as gently as dust on stone. And you wait, with your notes safe and your tools set, for whatever the clear day means to bring. Morning haze draws close to the tower like clean cloth hung to dry. You carry the coil of hemp and the small lead weight to the outer rail. The wool of your cloak holds a little night cool at the shoulders, and the metal hook of the capstan waits on its post. Fog smells like damp linen. The sea looks flat and pewter, a smooth plate that gives back only a slow light. You set the coil on wood, ease the lead to the edge, and feel the line settle in your palm. You tie the standing end to the capstan cleat, a simple knot you could make in the dark. Hemp feels rough and kind. It warms under your fingers as the skin learns its twist. You rub a thumb of fat on the face of the lead, so sand or shell will ride back to tell its story. Your hand rests on the rail and reads the grain like old writing. Salt lies thin on the tongue, clean and small. You lean out and lower the weight. With the first yard, the line gives a tiny knock on the capstan, a patient tick that keeps time without hurry. You let the hemp slide across your skin, steady and slow. The fog moves around you in a quiet way, not hiding the world, only softening it. Water below holds still as poured metal, but small shivers run under the skin when a fish turns or a current shifts. The lamp in the lantern room rests, wick trimmed, glass clear. You hear a gull somewhere in the pale distance give one low cry and then leave you. The tiny knock sounds again as another yard passes. A light finger against wood, faithful and mild. You pause and ease the line over a notch cut smooth in the rail for this task. Wood shows its patient wear, a dull shine from years of rope going and coming. You glance toward the tide board. Wet marks in the dark plank look calm and even. Down on the quay, a jar lid kisses a rim and goes quiet. Far along the wall, a goat outside the yard noses a tuft and shakes rain from its ears so softly you can almost hear it. Your fingers open again. The hemp slips and answers with that shy little knock at the capstan, a tick you could follow in your sleep. You lower until the weight finds bottom. The line slackens and tells you without fuss. You feel grit through the hemp, a faint pull like cloth caught on a nail and then free. Fog carries the smell of seaweed and old nets, sweet and faint. You hold the line for a count that lives in the hand, not in numbers. A neighbor on the harbor stones coughs once and covers the sound with wool. You lift the lead and bring it in. The capstan gives its light tick as the marks pass your knees. The same patient voice on the way up as on the way down. You rest the lead in a shallow bowl so it will not stain the deck. The bowl is wood, smooth as a river stone, warm where the sun reaches. On the fat you press to the face, a thin film of sand clings. You brush it with a cloth, and tiny grains shine like salt. The smell is clean and earthy, like a jar newly opened after a long sleep. You set a small note on your wax tablet, depth fair, bottom sand, and close it with a strip of string. From the stair hole below, a bucket mouth nudges stone and falls still. The capstan answers with one timid knock as the loose line settles against it. You coil the slack and carry the lead 2 paces along the catwalk, then lower again from another notch. Fog thins and thickens by turns, but the world keeps its good shape. Tar warms on the ribs of a boat and sends a sweet bite up the wall to meet the smell of wool and oil from your coat. The line slides, and the hemp leaves a faint whisper on your skin, polite as a fingertip. Each yard that passes offers the tiny knock, a modest tick like a bead dropped into cloth. You feel the weight find bottom again, steady as a thought set down and kept. You draw the lead back and let it rest on a folded cloth. A smear of broken shell marks the fat this time. You press the shard with a nail. It crumbles to chalk and disappears. You drink a mouth of water from the skin, cool as stone, then drag the back of your hand across your lip. Down near the mole, a rope rubs its post once, hemp on wood, and says no more. The gull's low call returns from within the fog, smaller now, like a bell heard through wool. The capstan offers another shy tick as the slack eases home and asks nothing further. You change to the lee side where wind, such as it is, has grown even gentler. Boards under your sandals feel dry and sure. Dust curls at the edge of the rail where early damp has lifted. You brush it with your palm and watch it fall into the gray air like sifted flour. You lower the line again. The hemp warms and rises to your skin, then cools with the fog. The sea keeps its pewter face, but the marks on the tide board breathe once and hold. The capstan speaks with that small regular knock at your left hand, a hush of time that harms nothing. You do not hurry. You keep a pattern you learned from those who came before. Sound here, sound there, walk the ring, record and fold. Keep tools where hands remember them. The lamp waits in its glass room. The oil can stays near the door, metal cool. Wait honest. 2 men below carry a pole between them and share the labor without words. Their sandals find the same marks on the stones, and then go. A rat under a plank makes one careful scratch and forgets you. The capstan tick returns with the next yard and sits in your ear like a small anchor that never drags. You press another note into the wax, Sand and shell mixed, no weed, then bind the tablet again. Beeswax smells mild and makes your thumb slick for a moment. You rub it off on the inside of your cloak so grit will not cling. A thin thread of sun makes its way through the high fog and lays a pale stripe along the rail. You lay your hand in that stripe for the simple comfort of warm wood. Far across the harbor mouth, oars bump a hull with 2 low knocks and rest. The capstan gives one more tiny knock of its own, and the 2 sounds seem to nod to each other. You shift your stance and hold the line while you look outward. A patch of water shows a faint, darker vein where a current runs. It slides past a lighter sheet that looks like brushed metal. A scrap of cloth fastened to a pole on the outer pile lifts, then droops, with no wish to do more. Smoke from a morning hearth inland finds a path, and then forgets it. Your mouth keeps the taste of salt and bread from earlier, plain and good. The hemp glides, and with each mark the capstan gives that gentle tick, a small reminder that the world can count itself without noise. You finish the circle with one last cast at the seaward notch. The lead sinks through quiet water and meets the floor below, with a feeling like a soft handshake. You wait, then raise it and lay it on the cloth again. A single grain of dark grit sticks to the fat and you pinch it away. You note what it tells and put the tablet aside. The rope coil sits tidy by your boot, turns flat and calm. Fog smells now more like wet stone than wet linen. The shift is small but sure. The capstan keeps its little voice as you take in the last yard, and then there is no more to say. You wipe the rail where the line ran, just to leave it ready for the next use. Sand under the cloth whispers. Wood underneath shows its straight lines and quiet knots. You hang the lead by its ring so air can dry what water clings to it. You fold the cloth and slide it under the bowl so the wind will not take it. The lamp's glass in the room behind you keeps a soft gleam, even unlit, as if it remembered flame. A man at the foot of the tower clears his throat, then hums half a line of nothing and walks on. The capstan, patient companion, gives a last tiny knock as the loose end shifts, and then holds peace. You stand and let the morning become itself. Fog thins again and shows the town in muted color. Clay roofs with ash on them. Stone walls like the bones of the land. Narrow paths where cloth hangs from pegs and waits for light. The tide board below glows dark along its band, unchanged and calm. A gull rides past and is more shape than bird, its cry soft, not in a hurry. You hold the rail and feel the grain. Salt sits light on your mouth. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. Your plain world laid out without strain. And somewhere inside the tower, almost too gentle to hear, the memory of that tiny knock remains. A quiet measure that stays with you as the haze lifts and the day opens. Haze loosens around the rail you used for the line, and the tower feels like a quiet room again. You carry the coil to its peg, wipe your palm on cloth, and turn to the small shelf near the lens. The wax tablet waits there, smooth and faintly warm, where the sun has begun to reach. Beeswax smells mild and sweet, like stored comb in summer. You lift the stylus from its string and weigh it in your hand. Outside, the harbor softens under gray light, and the world asks for neat marks, not hurry. You sit on the plain wood stool and set the tablet on your knee. Wood grain under the stool is steady. The seat does not rock. Your cloak folds under you with a dry slide, wool on wool. You pull a little charcoal from its twist of cloth and touch it to your fingers so they will remember black and keep the line true. Charcoal dust kisses your skin and leaves a gentle ring on your thumb. You press the stylus point into the wax, slow and neat, and hear the first soft scratch begin. The lamp in its glass room rests at your shoulder. Oil scent hangs light and clean. You glance at the wick you trimmed, even as thread, and feel the room approve. Stone under your feet keeps a cool that eases its way up your shins. Salt is small on your lip, still there from the water you took at dawn. You lean a little and draw the line you need. The stylus scratches softly, a dry hush that settles numbers into place and asks nothing loud. You pause and lift the point. Wax rises in a tiny curl and then lies down. The smell of beeswax grows a hint richer under your hand, warm now from skin. You brush a faint crumb into your palm and feel it stick for a moment before it fades. From the quay below, a neighbor coughs once and covers the rest with cloth. Far out, a boat rope answers a post with a low rub and goes still. You tip the tablet to the light, and the thin grooves show as a calm river across the flat. You set down the sounding from the eastern notch, then the one by the lee rail, then the one beyond the pile. Each mark finds its place like small stones in a row. Charcoal dust rides your fingers. You wipe them clean on the inside hem, so grit will not travel back into the wax. The lamp's brass band warms against your sleeve and leaves a soft metal scent. You listen for the harbor and hear only oars adjusting, one wooden brush against a thwart. The stylus returns to the wax, and the same soft scratch begins again, faithful and low. You lift the cover leaf and press it flat while the lines cool. The hinge thong creaks once and settles. You add a tiny dot where sand showed on the lead face, and a short dash where shell dust clung. Beeswax takes each small sign without complaint. A rat under the floor tests a plank with a single scratch, and then forgets the plan. Your mouth keeps the taste of bread heel and a touch of smoke. It sits well with the work. The stylus wants one more pass, and you let it glide, the quiet scratch keeping time all its own. Fog at the windows thins and thickens, and the glass makes a pale world softer still. You lean, watch water shift from pewter to gray-blue, then return to the tablet. You hold the stylus like a tiny spear and guide it through another column. The point moves easy, and the wax opens to it like soft sand under a stick. Charcoal dust kisses your finger again when you steady your hand on the board edge. From outside the door, a goat noses at the low grass and taps a horn once against stone, polite and brief. The stylus scratches softly, that same dry hush, and peace collects around the sound. You reach for the bowl and take a small drink. Water tastes of clean stone and a little clay. You roll it in your mouth and swallow, then press your lips together to keep them steady for the next neat row. The lamp's chimney, clear from the morning's wipe, throws a faint bright ring on the brass frame. You note wind light, sea level calm at the board, and a simple word for haze. Each word holds with a shallow, confident groove. You blow gently across the page, and the marks cool and hold, their edges more sure for that soft touch of air. You close the tablet for a moment and hold it between both palms, as if it were a small loaf taken fresh from a hearth. Heat from your hands moves into the wood frame. The wax inside keeps its shape. Salt air slips through a seam and tastes clean. You open the leaves again and admire the shine. Not pride, only respect for work done at the right pace. A coil of rope near the door shows one loose loop. You rise, nudge it flat, and feel the hemp's dry strength under your fingers. The stylus lies where you set it, patient as a tool should be. You sit again and make the last small notes, oars heard near the mouth. gull low and scarce, tar smell rising with the first light. Beeswax holds the words and numbers together like grain in bread. Charcoal tints the skin of your thumb darker now. You rub it clean, and the dark fades to a soft gray cloud on the cloth. Below, a jar lid finds its seat and makes a clay kiss that dies quickly. The rat keeps still. The boat rope rub does not return. The stylus scratches once more, only a short line to close the morning, and rests. You bind the tablet with its string and press the knot, flat and neat. The string smells of flax, dry and plain. You hang the stylus on its peg and listen to it click once against wood, a modest sound. The lamp gives no flame, only a hint of warm oil left from your test, and that smell comforts the room the way a known song comforts a road. You run your palm over the lens frame, cool and firm, and feel the steadiness travel into you. On the quay, someone drags a small crate across stone, and the scrape stays soft, respectful of morning. You tidy the shelf, tablet to the rear, charcoal wrapped and tied, cloth folded, bowl set mouth down so dust will not find it. Your fingers find crumbs of wax that rolled free. They stick and soften, then melt into nothing. Beeswax leaves a sweet trace on your skin, and you keep it. You lean on the sill and watch fog pull back from the tideboard. Wet wood gleams, then dulls, calm and sure. The lines you made seem to hum in memory, not a noise, only a settled feeling. The faint, dry hush of the stylus seems still in the air, like echo in a jar when you hold it to your ear. You stand and open a narrow shutter to let new air pass through. The hinge gives a small sigh and goes quiet. Smoke from a cook fire inland sends a thin blue ribbon across the harbor, and the ribbon loses itself above roofs of clay. You taste ash, only a hint, and it sits kindly with the salt. You check the lamp again, only once, the way you touch a door peg when leaving a room. Everything is in place. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. The plain world that stays when trouble is far and also when it is near. You gather your cloak and ease it around your shoulders. Wool holds a little warmth from the stool, and it settles across your back. The tablet, tied and true, slides into its pouch and rests against your side like a steady friend. Outside, the fog lifts enough to show the line of the outer piles and the flat color of the open water. A gull passes and forgets to call. You touch the peg of the stylus once more and feel the smooth wear made by years of the same quiet work. In your ear, the old, soft scratch remains, a thin thread across the morning. While the wax cools, the numbers keep their place, and the room returns to stillness. Pale light finds the room you kept steady with wax and char, and the lantern frame looks like a quiet ring within it. You walk to the narrow shutter set in the stone. Wood around it feels cool and dry under your fingers. You lift the latch and ease the small frame open. The brass hinge exhales once, not loud, only sure. Air slides in from the harbor mouth, and seaweed scent climbs the tower and lingers near the glass. The floor planks under your sandals feel dry and steady, as if the tower had set its feet for the day. You hold the shutter at a hand's width and watch the light pour into a bright stripe on the floor. Dust moves inside the stripe like soft snow, then settles. Stone along the sill shows pale scars where years of salt have kissed it. Your tongue keeps a faint salt from the skin of the morning. The lamp waits unlit, wick trimmed, chimney clear. Its brass band lifts a thin gold where the light touches it. From the yard below, a goat noses a rope coil and gives up. The hinge sigh remains in your ear, a friendly memory of metal and care. You reach for a folded cloth and run it along the inside frame. Grain rises under the damp and lies down again when the wood drinks. The cloth smells of clean water and old soap. It leaves the brass strip cool at first, and then warm where your hand stays. A neighbor on the quay coughs once and sets a jar straight on stone. The sound travels up the shaft like a small pebble rolling and then stopping. You check the hinge screws. No turn needed. Only a touch to greet their little heads. When you lift the frame a finger higher, the brass gives another soft, even sigh, kind as linen sliding over wood. You walk the room to feel the floor. Planks hold with quiet signals under your soles. A shallow rise where the center joist runs. A flat calm near the door. A good join beside the lens post. You take the broom and draw fine sand toward the stair hole. Sand whispers against wood and gathers as a thin ribbon. The ribbon curls and drops out of sight and leaves the boards clean to the palm. Your shirt keeps the faint smell of last night's fire. A thin ash taste sits with the salt and does no harm. The hinge sigh waits across the room, ready for when the frame returns to its rest. You lean on the sill and watch the water through the open slit. The sea looks like laid pewter where the fog still sits, then shows small scales of light where the sun pushes through. Seaweed floats along the piles, dark green and sure. The smell of it mixes with tar from boat ribs and makes a soft, sweet edge to the air. Your fingers stay on stone and feel its cool soak into skin. A gull crosses the gap and leaves no sound this time. Only a shadow like cloth pulled over the eye and then lifted. Behind you, the floor stays steady and plain, grain like low waves running one way. You turn toward the lamp and lift the chimney to check the mouth you trimmed. Glass is smooth under the cloth. The cloth leaves no mark. Oil in the bowl smells like crushed fruit and clean wick. It does not ask to wake yet. You cover it again and set the pins so the cap cannot jar. The small bowl of water near the peg ring holds its flat top. When you touch it with one finger, it takes your print and forgets it at once. Down the wall, a boat rope rubs its post one time and grows quiet. The hinge across the room keeps its single sigh in your ear, a guide more felt than heard. You bring a crumb of bread from the pouch and let it soften on your tongue. Flour and a trace of smoke speak in a quiet way. You drink a swallow from the skin, water cool as stone, and set the skin back on its peg so the strap will not twist. The plank near the door, always the one that once wished to move, lies true today. You press it with your heel and feel no give. A rat under the floor thinks about a dash and changes its mind. You lay the cloth over the sill to catch any new dust. The shutter hangs open, calm as a page held by one finger, and the last of its earlier sigh sits long and low. You take a small jar of oil and the thin stick you use for hinges. The stick is wood with a cloth twist. You touch the jar mouth to the cloth and lift only a little, then lay that damp on the hinge pin where the brass meets wood. The scent is mild and sweet, almost like nuts. You move the frame slow, forward and back, and the sound changes from dry to soft in less than a span. Metal learns to glide again. You wipe the pin, leave no shine, only a quiet promise set inside the join. Outside, a boy up the lane drags a basket and hums half a line that fades. The room keeps its calm. You check the latch and the little hook that keeps the frame safe in wind. Iron is dark and straight. You rub a pinch of sand under the hook, then wipe it clean so it will seat without scratch. Cloth comes away gray and then clear. The floor receives the few grains and shows no mark. Near the stair hole, the coil you squared earlier sits flat on the board. each turn equal. You rest your palm on the nearest plank and feel the wood share its warmth back to you. The hinge waits with its sound unread yet written, like a word you can taste without saying. You hold the frame open for a while and let pale light fill corners the lens does not reach. In that light, dust on the lens frame looks like fine flour and brushes off with a breath of cloth. You fold the cloth again and slide it into the pouch so the clean edge stays ready. From the mole, a chain lays once against stone, then hangs. A jar lid meets its rim with a dull kiss and seals cool water against noon. The scent of seaweed does not leave. It sits in the tower as if the tower were a rock in the tide. The floor planks feel like shorewood dried under sun, light and sure. You walk a slow circle and test each board with your weight. The room answers you with almost nothing, only a faint wood murmur where a joint meets an old peg. You bend and see the peg flush and sound. A thin thread of fog crosses the gap outside and slides away. The tideboard below keeps its quiet bands in wet wood, no change, just the slow shine of morning. Your mouth holds a small salt. Your hands keep a little oil from the hinge work, and your skin smells like clean brass and soap. The shutter gives a gentle shake as a breeze touches it, and then stops. You return to the sill and look out once more. The harbor wears a soft color, clay and white and worn wood, as if seen through a bowl of clear water. Smoke rises from a low roof, and then forgets to rise. A fisherman straightens a pole. You see the pole move, not the hand. Rope on the outer pile lifts its tail and sets it back. You taste a line of ash on the lip and wash it with a swallow from the bowl. The room holds you like a palm. When you bring the frame in toward the latch, the brass hinge exhales again. A low, friendly motif that says the morning has been heard. You close the shutter to a thumb's gap and leave it there so light can draw a narrow road across the floor. The road crosses the join in the planks and climbs the leg of the stool, and then rests on the rim of the lamp like a thin coin. You place your hand in that road and feel warmth move into the skin. Cloth at your shoulder smells of wool and a little ash. The lens stands quiet and clean, a round eye that knows when to wake. The hinge sigh lingers in the wood around it, a sound that seems to hold the frame even when you do not. You sit with your back against the stone and let the tower be a tower again. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. The plain list waits in the head and keeps shape. No need to rush. The floor planks keep their calm, each one carrying its share without talk. Outside, the sea gives a low hush where it meets the mole. Inside, the room gives you quiet in return. When you finally lift the frame and close it, the brass makes one last soft sigh, round and even. The sound settles along the grain of the floor, and the pale strip of light becomes a slim line on wood, steady and kind, while the seaweed scent stays in the air and the room rests. Noon moves in gently after the hinge sigh and the quiet floor. Light spills across the boards in a wide, pale sheet. Heat begins to press on the stone and on your coat. You go to the lamp and fit its little shade in place. You hold the band of brass and feel it grow warm, like sun-baked bread set on a ledge. Oil smells sweet and clean, a soft fruit scent that eases the room. Far below, oars brush hulls with soft bumps, kind and slow, a low sound that returns and returns. You slide a cloth around the chimney and lift it just enough to see the wick. The glass feels smooth and a little hot where the sun finds it. The trim you made at dawn still lies even, so you let it be. A faint metal taste comes to your tongue from your fingers, and you wipe it away on the fold of your cloak. Heat holds steady on the brass, not harsh, only firm and sure. Oars below give another gentle bump, wood kissing wood, a round little thud that rests in the air. You step out to the catwalk and let your hand run along the rail. Wood is warm and dry. Grain rises like low waves beneath your palm. The water looks steady as glass, flat as poured metal. Gulls drift without hurry and barely move their wings. Tar warms on boat ribs and sends a sweet bite up the wall to mix with salt. Oars brush hulls with those soft bumps again, and your shoulders loosen at the sound. You turn back inside and sit on the stool near the lens. Stone under your sandals gives off the night cool it kept and then yields to the day. You take the skin from its peg and pour 3 slow swallows into the palm bowl. Water tastes of clean stone, with a faint clay note from the jar. You eat a small scrap of bread and a dried fig. Sweet sticks to your teeth and stays kind. From under the floor, a rat moves once and decides not to move again. Outside, the oar bumps keep their patient measure. You pull the wax tablet from its shelf and rest it on your knee. The beeswax has softened a little in the heat. It smells like a warm hive. You press the stylus and write 2 small lines. Noon, water steady, wind light. Charcoal dust kisses your fingers and leaves a gray halo on your thumb. You tie the tablet and slip it back into its place. The lamp waits unlit, shade snug, like a bowl turned mouth down to keep dust out. Below, the oar bumps float up the shaft, slow and round. You cross the room to the shutter you oiled and touch its frame. Wood feels dry and sure. When you ease it open for a hand of air, the brass gives the faintest sigh and then holds. Seaweed scent climbs the tower again and stays, green and clean. The floor planks show a light shimmer, where noon lays its hand across them. A neighbor on the quay coughs once and moves a crate with care. Oars brush hulls with soft bumps, kind and slow. The sound is even as a line of pebbles laid along a path. You fold your cloak into a small square and make a rest for your back. Cloth slides over wood with a quiet whisper. You lean and let the tower carry part of your weight. The lamp's shade gathers the sun and keeps the lens from warming too much. Brass holds heat and gives it back to your fingers in a steady way. Oil's sweet scent hangs low, never sharp. From the harbor, the oar bumps come again, small and round, asking nothing, promising the same. You look through the shutter slit at the town. Roofs of clay glow soft. White lime on a wall throws back light like milk. A string of fish hangs in shade, their silvery skins dull under woven reeds. Somewhere inland, a millstone grinds once and sleeps. A goat outside the keeper's yard noses a weed and flicks an ear. Smoke threads from a cooking pot and smells of bread and a little ash. Oars below give their low sound again, and you feel your jaw loosen as if the sound had smoothed the bone. You set tools in a tidy row: oil can, wick trimmer, cloth. You run a moist corner along the lens rim and find 1 grain of sand from the morning's work. It lifts and goes. Your fingers carry a trace of salt and metal. You touch them to the bowl and rub them clean. A coil of rope waits by the door. You square its edge so every turn lies flat. Rope is dry and strong. Fibers roughen your palm and then soften. The lamp keeps its rest, and the oar bump comes back, rounding the hours without any push. You walk the ring of the catwalk once more. Heat lies on the rail like a light blanket. The tideboard below holds a dark band in wet wood. It shines and then dulls in a slow drift. A chain along the mole hushes against stone and then hangs. Far out, A faint line of haze shakes in the light. It does not move closer. Salt sits easy on your lip. The oar bumps down in the harbor, find a new echo off the wall, and sound a little deeper, as if the day had thickened. You return to the room and take a bite from a piece of cheese you saved. Sharp milk brightens your mouth, and fig sugar settles it. You rest the food on a clean cloth and sip water. Your throat loosens, and your shoulders lower just by a finger's span. The kind change you hardly notice until it is there. Someone below sets a pot on the stones. The clay gives a soft ring and then forgets it. Oars brush hulls again, the same small touch that makes wood speak in a friendly voice. The sun seems to ask you to move slower, and you listen. You check the lamp once more, not to worry it, only to give it a nod. Shade firm, chimney clean, wick trim, oil enough for night. Your palm rests a moment on the brass band. Heat holds there like stored bread warmth. You pull the shutter to a half gap and let the line of light narrow. Dust turns in that beam and falls. Seaweed scent stays gentle, not strong, a quiet guest. The oar bumps from far below grow softer as men finish a task and set oars across thwarts. The room keeps the last of that low, round sound inside its stone. You fold the cloths and place them under a small stone so the breeze will not take them. You hang the skin back on its peg, strap straight, not simple. A fly tries the window and finds it, then gives up and goes to a darker corner. The floorboards warm your feet through the sandal leather. Grain prints itself on your skin and then fades. You draw a hand over the sill and feel the thin roughness where salt dries. Oars brush hulls one more time, soft and slow, then rest like a hand that has finished a kind chore. You sit again, chin to chest for a moment, not asleep, only quiet. Lamp at rest, lens cool, shade sure. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. The plain list is here with you, the same at noon as in dawn. A rat under the floor makes a short decision and turns back. A gull drifts in the hot blue and forgets to call. The harbor holds steady like glass, and the air smells of salt and a sweet edge of oil. Far below, from somewhere close to the mole, a last oar bump rises, round and kind, then fades into the warm hush of the day. Noon hush settles after the last oar bump fades, and the lamp rests behind you with its shade holding the light back. You move to the outer wall and lean your forearm along the stone. Salt sits on your lip and tastes simple, clean as the skin of a shell. Heat from the day soaks the blocks and comes through the sleeve, slow and steady. The stone seems to hum, low and even, a sound too soft for the ear, yet plain to the bone. Down by the quay, a jar rope rubs its hook with a faint thread of sound, thin as twine drawn across wood, and the small rasp lays a patient path through the quiet. You let your weight find a calm place against the wall, then shift the cloak at your neck. Wool slides over linen with a dry hush that makes the skin under it feel cooler for a moment. Heat lifts tar scent from the quay roofs and folds it with brine and fig smoke from a cook fire somewhere inland. The air tastes warm, like sun on clay. A gull drifts across the edge of the water and keeps its wings flat, nothing to prove. Again the jar rope rubs the hook, small, even, and kind, a tiny reminder that ties must move a little to stay whole. You look along the harbor mouth to the open water, which holds its glassy face but shows thin lines where currents walk. At the piles near the mole, seaweed fans and then lies flat, a slow hand opening and closing. A boy on the far quay kicks at dust you cannot see and then forgets his feet. Only a softer shade of sound reaches you when he sets a pot down. The stone under your forearm hums that same low tone as before, steady as a millstone turned by a tame stream. Jar rope on hook gives another faint rub and rests. Heat makes the tar breathe sweet, and a small hint of it sits in your mouth like a memory of bread crust. You shift your sandals until each finds the shallow groove in the board, the one you know without looking. The grain under your soles presses a light map on your skin and then lets it go. Your hand moves to the rail and finds splinters smoothed by many days. The rail gives back the day's warmth like a loaf held near the hearth. From below the tower, a neighbor clears a throat and speaks without words, by the way the throat closes and opens. Then nothing more, only work. A rat underneath the floor tests one beam and changes its plan. The rope rub returns, gentle and thin, as if the hook were drawing a single flax thread through time. You drink from the skin to wash the salt on your lip. Water tastes of clean stone in the jar's cool belly. You hold a small piece of bread in the palm and let it soften, then take it. Flour and ash from the oven ride together and make peace on the tongue. Farther along the quay, a jar lid touches clay and makes a soft, hollow kiss. The stone hum stays with your forearm, low and even, like a hand laid across the tower's heart. The jar rope rubs again, its faint thread of sound cutting a neat seam through the warm air. You turn your face to the tower wall and catch the smell of dust baked onto lime. It is a simple smell, dry and honest. You brush a bit of grit from the sill and feel how fine it has become, like ground chalk. The light along the rail shakes only a little in the heat, a shimmer that looks like thin water over stone. A goat outside the keeper's gate snorts at a fly and loses interest. Somewhere on the road, a cart axle finds its grease and grows quiet with thanks no one hears. From the quay, the jar rope rubs the hook once more, low and regular, the way a whetstone sings to a slow hand. A fly tries the glass of the lantern room and loses, then finds the shadow and sits. The lamp behind you holds its own warmth, not hot, only a stored comfort waiting for when day sinks. You set the palm of your other hand flat on the wall. The hum in the stone meets both arms now and fills the small bones with a kind, far music. Tar smell thickens for a breath inside the noon, and then thins to a clean line again. A fisherman from the town, only a figure to you, lifts something narrow to his shoulder and becomes smaller along the quay, a fold of shade walking through bright. The jar rope rub returns, thin and neat, and you feel the rope and hook doing their quiet talk. You lower yourself to a crouch and rest with your back against the tower. The board at your heel knows your weight and accepts it. You take a fig from the pouch, hard and little, and bite. Sweet folds in your mouth and sits in the jaw with a good pull. The hum in the stone becomes a comfort, as familiar as a coat. Your eyes rest on the tide board, which keeps its dark band easy and straight. A gull feather turns on the flat water like a tiny oar. Jar rope on hook offers its faint scrape again. The same soft syllable repeated as if naming light work. You rise and stretch your arms along the wall, so your fingers find the joints between the blocks. The mortar line feels dry and rough. Grains fall and powder your skin in a fine coat that smells like old hills. You brush it off, and the dust lifts in a pale cloud that goes nowhere and then slowly is gone. From inland, a dog complains and forgets why. On a balcony, someone shakes a cloth. A line of sparkles moves and stops. Heat folds around the tower, but the inner stones give back cool from the night still trapped inside. The jar rope rub is there again, thin, near, exact, a seamstress at work on the day. You circle the catwalk once and return to the same stretch of rail because your body knows this patch holds the right lean. Wood meets forearm, and the stone under the other arm hums low and even. Water far out shows a faint darker bar, then loses it. The mole throws back a little heat of its own, which rises like a clear smell you can almost taste. A man on the near quay moves a basket. The wicker's dry music brushes the stones. The jar rope rubs and rests. Tar scent rides the sun one more time and gives the room behind you a sweet, dark edge. You set the water bowl near the sill where the light will not turn it warm too quickly. A second swallow cools the tongue and leaves a clean line down the throat. You run the folded cloth along the rail and lift a film of salt. It lingers on your fingers. You touch it with the tip of your tongue and find only plain sea. The hum in the stone is still there, not loud and not soft either, just right, like a mill at a distance that never stops and never bothers. A gull lands on the outer pile and gives a single slow call that ends itself. The jar rope rub comes again, that faint thread of sound, a stitch pulled through a loop and laid flat. You listen for the water clock in your head and do not hear it because this hour needs no count. The lamp's shade holds its post. The wick lies quiet. The oil keeps its sweet, clean promise. You think of rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread, your small list, your steady circle. A neighbor down below moves a small stool and sets it down so gentle it barely speaks. The dog inland forgets to complain. Heat on the quay roof stays firm, and tar scent hangs like a line of dark honey. At your elbow, the jar rope rubs its hook once more, faint and faithful, and that small sound stretches wide and thin across the still day, while the stone's low hum stays with your forearm, even and calm. The stone's low hum stays in your forearm as you lift your gaze to the water and let the wall hold you. The wind falls quiet in a way you can taste, a thin salt that settles on the lip and stays there. Gulls hang on still wings, gray shapes pinned against a pale sky. Tar, brine, and fig smoke mix in the air and make a warm, dark sweetness. Below the tower, the bell rope gives one small sway against its hook. Its muted clink drifts up the shaft and settles near your ear like a coin wrapped in cloth. You watch the surface calm and do not hurry. You move a hand along the rail and feel warm wood rise and fall under your palm, each swell a familiar grain. The lamp behind you holds its shade and keeps its metal glow like stored bread heat. The lens waits cool and clean as a bowl turned over. Out beyond the piles, the sea looks ironed, flat as cloth on a table. On the quay, a neighbor coughs into a sleeve and sets a pot down with care. The sound climbs the stone and then forgets to go farther. From below, the bell rope gives another soft clink, small and kind, and the air seems to fold around it. You take the skin from its peg and wet your mouth with a slow sip. Water tastes of clean stone and jar clay. Your shoulders loosen as if a strap had been untied. You rest the bowl near the sill, where light cannot turn it warm. Down in the harbor, oars lie across thwarts and make no wood sound. Lines hang with slack bellies, and a boat rope that liked to rub its post chooses silence. The bell rope sways once more, just enough to speak, and that muted clink becomes your steady guide while your eyes learn the new stillness on the water. You circle the catwalk and let your sandals read the boards. Thin seams of sand gather along the planks, soft as sifted flour. You brush them with a fold of cloth and watch the dust drift into the bright, then settle. Heat lifts tar scent from the quay roofs again and threads it with the light bite of salt. A gull tilts, corrects, then holds, as if the sky itself had asked for quiet hands. You stop near the outer notch and lean on the rail. The bell rope answers with a shy clink, and the sound runs through the calm like a small stitch you can follow without effort. You look down to the tide board and read the wet marks in old wood. The band sits even, dark and sure. No ruffle walks its edge. You let your eyes travel along the channel where weed shows just under the clear top, like faint writing beneath thin cloth. The taste of bread still sits with you from noon, flour, and a line of smoke. A coil of line on the quay has settled into a perfect round, each turn agreeing with the next. The bell rope gives its quiet clink again, and the day seems to nod. You slip the wax tablet from its pouch and rest it on your knee. Beeswax feels soft from the heat and smells like comb and summer shade. You press the stylus and lay a few small signs: wind thin, harbor quiet, water level calm. Charcoal dust kisses your fingers and leaves a gray ring that wipes away on the inside hem. You close the leaves and tie them with their string, neat and flat. The muted clink rises again from the bell rope, a tiny, rapt sound, and those marks in wax feel held in place by it. You listen to the tower's other life. Under the floor, a rat decides against trouble and stays still. On the stones below, a bucket mouth meets a well lip with a soft ring that does not wish to carry. Far along the mole, a chain shifts once and falls quiet with a metal whisper. Between the piles, the water's skin holds like glass. Even the small bright scales that light makes decide to lie flat. The bell rope moves a finger's width and lets the clink sound again. The same small tone, as if a hand had smoothed a crease in the day. You rest your back against the lens post and let the wood share its stored warmth into your coat. Wool smells of sun and a little ash. Your hand finds the rail again. The grain answers like a calm voice you know well. You take a careful bite of the last fig and let sweetness fold over the salt. The quiet fills the harbor in gentle layers. No oar bump, no rope rub. Only gulls held on their own patience and the faint run of tar's warm scent. From the hook below, the bell rope gives its muted clink, and your ribs ease with the sound's round edge. You watch the small life near the piles. A fish shows a quick silver mouth and then chooses not to break the skin. A crab tests weed, finds it still, and folds back under a leaf. Weed lace rests flat and shines like wet silk without a ripple. You touch the rail and feel a fine sugar of salt under your palm, grains that lift and drift when you brush them off. The tide board keeps its dark band untroubled. The bell rope sways gently again, a single careful nod, and the clink threads the quiet like a line through calm water. You put tools in order, because hands want something true to do. Oil can at the back of the shelf, trimmer beside it, cloth folded under a small stone so wind cannot take it later. You tie the lamp strap looser so the metal will not mark the wood. The shutter latch gets a touch and holds. Far inland, a cartwheel turns and then goes silent, as if the road had asked for rest. At the yard gate, the goat noses a weed and decides to sit. From the bell rope, the clink comes once, then lingers in your ear the way warm light stays on stone after cloud passes. You wait where the tower breathes best, between the open slit and the cool inner wall. Stone on one side gives a faint night cold that has not yet left. Sun on the other lays a thin hand that you welcome. Tar, brine, and fig smoke keep their soft braid and make the air taste like a simple meal. You watch the surface calm hold as if a cloth had been laid over it and smoothed with a palm. The memory of the water clock's bead from earlier does not return. There is no plip to count. There is only the bell rope's muted clink, slow and rare, and it becomes the hour's measure you trust. You place your palm flat on the wall again and feel for the tower's low hum. It is there, steady as always, a comfort that climbs the arm and rests in the shoulder. The rail under your other hand stays warm and sure. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. Your small circle sits in order, patient as tools packed for a long walk. Wind thins to almost nothing. Gulls hold like carved birds, then tilt a feather and hold again. The bell rope gives one last gentle clink, muted and kind. And the sound settles into the quiet like a seed pressed into soft ground, while the harbor's surface keeps its calm, smooth and whole. The muted clink from the bell rope lingers in your ear as the calm holds on the water. You rest your forearms on the warm rail and let the tower carry your weight. Salt sits on your lip and makes a clean line. Tar, brine, and fig smoke hang together and taste like a simple meal. The gulls keep still wings, only tilting a feather now and then. You watch the skin of the harbor lie flat as glass. The bell rope answers again, a single slow clink, small as a coin in cloth. You look to the tide board and see the dark band lower by a finger, then two. The water slides out smooth, without rip or hurry, as if someone drew a wide cloth toward the open sea. Wet sand shines under the sun, silver and brown together, and narrow threads of water snake along it like small, bright paths. Your palm stays on wood, warmth moves into your skin and steadies your chest. Seaweed smell rises, green and thick, with a little sour note from kelp left bare. The bell rope gives one more quiet clink and falls still again. Shells glitter on the new ground, white as chalk in patches where the light lands. A crab finds a weed shadow and hides, leaving its quick marks on the shining sand before the marks fade. A fishtail shows once in a shallow run and goes with a small flick. Oars lie quiet on thwarts. Ropes hang slack and long. You taste salt and a touch of ash from the fig you ate earlier. The bell rope swings only a finger's width and lets out its soft clink, a sound that feels round and kind inside the warm air. Boats sit on their ribs at the edge, wood dry against air, tar lines dull under sun. The quayside takes on a new shape, with posts taller by the part that used to live in water. A man on the far mole lifts a basket and sets it down in a careful way. You do not hear his shoes, only the wicker's faint brush. From a doorway, a woman shakes a cloth and lets the dust drift like pale smoke. The goat near the keeper's yard noses a leaf and chews slow. The bell rope answers with its lonely clink and keeps you steady. You set the wax tablet on your knee and bring the stylus near. Beeswax smells warm and sweet, softened by noon. You press neat signs, water gone from inner piles, weed high on posts, boats resting, shells bright. Charcoal dust kisses your fingers and leaves a gray mark across your thumb. You wipe it on the inside hem, and it fades. You tie the string and place the tablet on the shelf near the lamp. The lamp stands quiet, with its shade firm. Brass holds a calm heat that feels like sun-baked bread. The bell rope gives another slow clink that settles your hand. You walk the ring of the catwalk and read the harbor from each angle. Stone below feels cooler where shadow holds. Stone in light gives off the day it has stored. The rail grain runs under your palm like low waves, and you keep your pace unhurried. Farther out, the open sea looks wide and empty, a plain of dull blue metal. Nearer in, the wet sand gleams as if newly made. Oars do not lift. Lines do not sing. Gulls stand like cut figures. From the hook, the bell rope answers, gentle and small, the same note as before. You return to the shutter and ease it open a little more. The hinge gives a breath of sound and then goes quiet. Seaweed smell thickens as the wind thins. It mixes with tar warmed on roofs and with the faint sweet of smoke from a stew somewhere inland. You take a small bite from a piece of bread kept for later. Flour and oven stone sit soft on your tongue. You wash it with water from the bowl, cool and clean. The bell rope murmurs its clink, and you feel the sound lay a slow line through the room. You lean your shoulder to the tower wall and let the stone answer back, low and even. The hum from the blocks climbs your arm and settles in your chest. Your sandals grip the plank you like best. The board takes your weight without fuss. A rat beneath the floor thinks about a run and decides against it. Far across the yard, a neighbor coughs once and moves a crate with care. The sound dies before it reaches your height. The bell rope moves again, just enough to say it is there, and its single clink touches the quiet like a fingertip on still water. More ground shows with the pull. A wide sheet of sand and dark mud, cut by narrow trenches where water returns in thin threads. Weed lays in long hair across the flats. A beam fallen long ago from a small pier shows itself, heavy and dark, with barnacle rings like old coins. A boy at the edge points toward bright shells and then lowers his hand, as if the sight were a thing to store rather than to shout. Your mouth keeps the taste of salt and a hint of fig from the morning. The bell rope meets the hook and makes its one sound again, slow and sure. You check the tools in their order because hands like to keep a room true. Oil can back to its place, wick trimmer beside, cloth folded and set under a smooth stone so wind will not take it. The lamp strap gets a small lift, and a lay so it will not mark wood. The skin hangs on its peg, strap straight, not clean. The list in your head holds rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. The bell rope's clink returns, and the list feels anchored to that small note. You rest your chin to your collar and watch the harbor without strain. The water keeps sliding out in a way that does not hurry. The flats shine like a polished table and then darken as air works on them. A line of fish, small and quick, find deeper runnels and vanish with a gentle scatter. Gulls pick their way, wait on narrow legs, then stand still and let the light climb them. You taste salt in the air as if someone had ground it fine and set it floating. The bell rope swings and makes its quiet clink, a marker for your watch. Not loud, not lost. At the edge of the flats, you notice stakes you have never seen, roots of old work that once kept nets. They hold their ground without complaint, black with age and sea. A broken pot mouth lies near a pool and shows a ring of red clay bright as a fig skin. Two men at the furthest boat look and wait with their hands easy. They hold themselves the way people do when a day asks for care. A coil of line relaxes and lies wider on the sand. The bell rope gives its single note again, slow as a nod. You slide your finger across the rail and feel a crust of dried salt give way. The flakes catch light and fall like pale dust. You bring the finger to your tongue and find only sea, plain and clean. Heat stands on the wood but does not press, and the shade from the lamp's cap keeps the lens cool. In the yard, the goat pushes its head into a dry patch of grass and pulls quiet. A far door closes with a low touch and stays closed. The bell rope meets the hook and speaks once more, and the tower seems to answer with its own hush. You raise the wax tablet again for a small line. Harbor floor bare at inner piles, boats on ribs, smell of kelp strong, wind thin. The stylus makes its dry whisper and lays the words neat. You tie the string and set the tablet beside the lamp where it will not slide. The room around you holds oil's sweet edge and a faint clean metal from brass. Your cloak smells of sun on wool and a little ash from last night's light. You touch the hinge of the shutter, and it stays friendly and quiet in your hand. The bell rope's clink comes up the shaft and rests beside you like a companion. You lean out a little, careful, and read the flats once more. The sand still shines where water has only just gone. Farther out, it turns darker and soft. Weed folds and unfolds in the small channels left behind. A narrow eel shows a dark line under a film of water, then disappears into a deeper winding. The posts cast long, thin shadows toward the town. You hold the rail and keep the tower at your back. The bell rope answers again, slow and gentle, and the sound keeps you steady. You settle on the stool and let your hands go still. The lighthouse is a room again, stable and plain. Stone gives off its cool. Wood gives off its stored sun. Tar, brine, and fig smoke keep their braid in the air. The harbor holds quiet as if someone had laid both hands upon it to smooth every crease. Below the open slit, the bell rope sways once and makes a single clink. Not sharp, not dull, just enough. The note hangs a moment and then fades into the warm salt light, while wet sand shines and boats rest on their ribs in air. The bell rope's last soft clink fades into the noon hush as you hold the rail and keep your eyes on the flats. The harbor lies open like a wide page, and the skin of water has slipped back to a far line. Where water stood a short while ago, you see sudden silver move, fish turn and flash on wet sand that shines like a polished board. Kelp smell rises, sharp and green, and sits inside the warm air. From the quay, a chain gives a low hush against stone, a gentle rasp repeating, thin and steady as a file drawn with care. You rest one palm on the rail and lift the other to shade your eyes. Grain warms the hand. Salt dries on your lip and leaves a small edge of taste. Your sandals feel the tower board under you, a familiar hold in the wood. Down on the empty floor of the harbor, shells glitter like chalk chips set in brown clay. A gull sinks toward the bright patches, wings held long and still, then waits. The chain hush slides again along the stone. Not loud, not sharp, only that soft brush that marks the quiet hour. You carry the wax tablet from its shelf and tuck it against your thigh. Beeswax has softened. It smells like warm comb and a little smoke. You press the stylus and set careful lines. Sand bare at inner piles, fish silver on flats, weed stretched thin, chain on key moving with a small rasp. The stylus scratches in a dry, even way, and charcoal dust kisses your fingers. You tie the cord and set the tablet beside the lamp. Brass on the lamp feels like sun-baked bread to the touch, holding heat, giving it back at once. The chain hush repeats, easy as a cat's slow walk along a wall. You return to the catwalk and lean over the rail where the tide board once kept your count. Now its wet band floats lower still, but your eyes stay on the bare ground. Sand sticks to your palm when you press your hand on the sill. It clings like flour to a bowl. You taste salt, faint and simple. Fish scales ghost the light, bright, then dull, then bright again. A coil of rope at the base of the tower relaxes by its own weight and settles into a wider ring. From the quay, the chain hush draws one smooth line more across the warm day. You lift a cloth from its peg and wipe the sand from your hand. The cloth smells of clean water and old soap. It leaves the skin cool. You lay the cloth over the sill to dry and keep the dust from blowing up the shaft. The tower stone under your arm feels warm near the sun and cooler where shadow keeps to its work. Below, a boy tests the edge of the flats with careful feet, then stops, still as a marker in a quiet game. A neighbor coughs, then falls silent. The chain hush follows its own measure, a gentle rasp repeating, keeping your watch slow and sure. You drink from the bowl near the lens post and hold the water in your mouth a moment before you swallow. It tastes like clean stone and jar clay. You break a small piece of bread and chew until the flour turns sweet. The room holds oil's mild fruit smell from the lamp and a faint clean brass. Your cloak keeps sun in its wool and a thin note of ash from last night. On the outer piles, weed lies flat and shines like green cloth. From the key, the chain slides again and whispers along the stones, steady and even. You move around the ring and read the shapes that low water writes. A broken beam shows where the old pier once held, dark with weed, barnacles set like coins along its side. A pot mouth rests in a pool. Red clay shines under a skin of water. The boats sit on their ribs, wood dry against air, tar lines dulled, planks showing clean seams you do not usually see. No oar bumps now, no rope creak. The flats are wide and quiet, as if the harbor had taken in a long thought. The chain hush still strokes the stone, patient as hands smoothing a cloth. You set the tablet on your knee again and add a small note. Boat seated, ribs plain, shells bright, kelp smell strong, wind thin. The stylus makes its neat trace and leaves the wax calm and dark. You blow across the tiny dust on the page and close it so the marks will keep their shape. The skin goes back to its peg with the strap straight. The lens waits like a clear bowl turned mouth down, cool and clean. Far below, a cartwheel nudges a curb and then rests. The chain's low hush finds you again, a gentle rasp repeating, and the tower feels held to the key by that small, even sound. You place your palm flat on the outer wall and let the stone answer back. Heat lives shallow, night cool lives deep. Both meet in your hand. You slide your fingers along the mortar and feel grains of old sand. They stick, then fall as a fine pale dust. A rat under the floor thinks about a run and stays. A goat near the keeper's yard shakes one ear and goes back to a weed. The air carries kelp and tar and a thin line of fig smoke from a far pot. The chain hush draws another slow line along the day, a sound so small it fills the whole harbor. You keep your eyes on the flats toward the open cut. Fish leave soft marks and try new pools, their bodies writing lines that close again behind them. A gull walks rather than flies, and casts a thin shadow that slides along the bright ground. A man, at the far end of the quay, kneels by a post and ties a strap, his hands moving with that quiet care people use when a day feels strange. Weed tips twitch where a shallow thread still moves, then lie flat again. The chain hush leans into the stone once more, and the gentle rasp repeats, kind as a lullaby made of iron and rock. You tidy the small things you can. You straighten the rope coil so each turn lies close. You brush grit from the rail and send it into the bright air. You check the shutter latch, not to worry it, only to know it will hold. You set the cloth back on its peg so the wind cannot fetch it later. Your sandals press into the board you like best. The wood gives a friendly answer and keeps you steady. From the quay, the chain gives its low hush again, and you feel the line of it in your forearm, as if the sound had weight and could lean on stone. You sit on the stool and let the room become a room again. Lamp at rest, lens cool, wax closed and tight. The list holds inside you: rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. And each word finds its place like pebbles set in a row. Outside, the harbor stays hushed, even with fish flicking silver where water stood. Sand sticks if you touch it. Salt keeps its faint taste. The chain along the quay moves and makes its gentle rasp once more, then once more. A low hush against stone that repeats and repeats, small and even, while the shells glitter and the day holds its quiet shape. The chain's low hush stays near the stones as you raise the spyglass and rest cool brass against your cheek. The tube fits the bone like a known tool, steady and smooth. You lean on the warm rail and watch the emptied harbor lie open like a plain. Channels show themselves as dark threads stitched across shining sand. Weed lies flat and makes thin crackles in the sun, a dry whisper that only the quiet lets you hear. Tar warms sweet on the quay roofs and drifts up the wall with a soft bite. Below, the chain moves and gives its low hush again, the gentle rasp repeating. You draw the glass along the curve of the shore and follow those dark threads. Pools hold still water like scraps of blue cloth left behind. Shells glitter, then dull, then glitter again when the light shifts a little. A fish flickers and chooses a deeper run. The mark it leaves closes behind it. You taste faint salt on your lip and let it stay. Wood heat from the rail travels into your forearm and settles there, even and sure. From the quay, chain on stone hushes once more, the same small music in the still day. You lower the glass and let your skin meet the bare metal ring so you can feel its cool circle fade to warm. Boats sit on their ribs, wood dry against air, tar seams dull and honest. Planks show clean edges you do not see when water holds them. A coil of rope by the door has widened with its own weight. You gather it, turn by turn, until each loop lies flat and true. Fibers press a fine roughness into your palm and leave a light dust that smells like sun and hemp. The chain hush slides up the wall again, slow and even, as if the day were measured by iron and stone. You set the coil by the threshold and look inland through the slit where the town begins. Roads that carry carts most days show long pale stripes with no movement on them. Dust hangs and then sinks because nothing asks it to rise. A neighbor coughs once and does not call out. A goat noses a weed by the keeper's yard and makes a small sound, more breath than voice, then stands with the patience of old rope. Smoke from a clay stove folds into the bright and adds a thin taste of ash to the salt. Along the quay, the chain gives its gentle rasp again, a low hush that finds you where you lean. You take the wax tablet from the shelf and sit on the stool near the lens post. Beeswax smells warm and a little sweet, and your fingers carry that smell as they hold the edges. You press the stylus and lay careful lines, harbor floor bare, channels like threads, seaweed crackling, tar sweet in sun, roads empty, quiet. The point scratches in a dry whisper and leaves neat grooves that cool at once. You tie the cord and set the tablet back beside the lamp. Brass on the lamp band holds a mild heat, like bread left near a hearth. From below, chain on stone hushes again, the same small sound that keeps the marks steady. You lift the spyglass once more and rest its length across your cheekbone so the cool can do its small work. The far flats show old things made new by the draw. A stump of pier sits with barnacles, like little coins along its shade. A broken pot lip glows red under a skin of water, and a narrow eel writes a line through a pool and loses it. Sand ridges, low as sleeping ribs, curve with the channels and point to the road of water that once lay there. The weed's crackle grows faint as noon presses down, but you still hear a bit of that dry talk between fronds. The chain hush travels up the wall, patient and even, and becomes your line to follow. You shade the lamp so the lens will keep cool when the sun leans across the floor. The cloth slides over metal with a soft brush. You run a clean corner around the lens rim and lift one grain of grit left from morning and toss it to the sill. The shutter latch takes your touch and holds without sound. Wood stays dry and sure under your fingers. You drink a small swallow from the bowl and feel the clean stone taste run smooth. You set the bowl back near shadow where it will not warm. Along the quay, the chain moves and hushes again, the same low rasp, softer now, as if the day had made room for it. You move the coil of rope again, just to feel the order in your hands. Turn, lay, each ring close to the last, each fiber lined. You tuck the tail under and pull it snug. A rat under the floor thinks about a run and chooses stillness. The goat outside draws a circle in the dirt with its hoof and then stands in it, easy as chalk around a cup. Gulls hold to still air and tilt only a feather to stay true. You taste salt, and a little smoke from fig wood sits at the back of the tongue. The chain hush finds the stone again, a sound like cloth rubbed on rock, repeating, never hurrying. You bring the spyglass to your cheek and travel the long line where flats meet open blue. The edge is sharp, like a cut in cloth, and beyond it, the water lies hard and plain. On the far road, a cart stands with its pole set straight on the ground. No oxen knows the yoke. A cloak hangs from a peg on a yard post and hardly moves. A woman sets a jar on a step with both hands and pauses as if to listen to her own work. No one needs a shout. The day is made of small signs. Tar scent thickens in the heat and brings a sweet edge to the salt. From the quay, the chain and stone keep their quiet talk. You write one more line in the wax. Roads still. Carts at rest. People working slow. Chain along quay steady. The stylus leaves narrow valleys your finger can feel, even with eyes closed. You clean the point on a cloth corner, then fold it neat and slide it under a smooth stone so wind will not fetch it later. You touch the lamp band and feel its held warmth, then let go so it will not gather too much. The rail grain rises into your palm, and the tower stone presses back a steady calm through your coat. The chain hush drifts up the wall once more, small and even, and the sound settles inside you like a weight that does not trouble. You stand at the outer notch where you like to wait. Sand shines where water stood. Stones show their round backs. Ribs of boats hold their shape. Weed lays flat and listens to the sun. The harbor's channels keep their dark threads like paths drawn in ink, and your eye follows them without strain. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. The simple list sits in order around you, each thing where it should be. The chain on the quay moves and makes its low, friendly rasp again, the gentle hush repeating while you straighten the coil one last time and settle to even quiet, glass cool on your cheek and the emptied roads and flats held in your long, patient look. The chain's low hush still hangs along the quay as you hold the rail and keep your eyes on the long, bright flats. Then the far edge darkens. It curls back on itself like a cloth turned with two calm hands. A cool smell rises, clean and new, like fresh clay under rain. Your palm presses the wood, and the grain holds firm and steady. The rising is smooth and broad, not rushed, not thin. The chain hush softens, then thins again, as if iron has grown sleepy. You lift the spyglass and rest the cool brass against your cheek. The tube shows the first thin lines of water running home through the dark threads in the sand. Weed lifts its tips and sways, slow as a breath held a long time and finally let down. Shells lose their bright chalk and take on wet shine. A gull lowers, then finds new air and holds. From the yard across the wall, a neighbor coughs once and closes a door with care. The chain hush gives one last small stroke against stone and fades. You carry the wax tablet to the lens post and set it on your knee. Beeswax smells soft and warm. You press the stylus and write neat signs. Edge darkening, curl returning, wet smell like clay, channels filling. Charcoal dust kisses your fingers and leaves a faint ring you wipe on the inside hem. You close the leaves with their string so the marks will keep their shape. When you rise, you hear a low sound far below, wood touching wood with weight. It is only once, then quiet again. You walk the catwalk slow, letting the board tell your feet what it knows. Salt dries on your lip and tastes simple and true. Tar's sweet bite in the sun grows thin, and the wet smell comes forward, cool and plain. The rail warms your forearm in a steady way. You look down along the inner piles and see water thicken there, a dark band deepening around weed. The chain on the key lies slack now. Its small rasp is gone. Your ear waits and finds nothing but the soft run of water. Then a new sound arrives from the lowboats. It is a deep, slow oar bump. Wood answering hull with a round, certain note. Not sharp, not quick. Just that gentle meeting, then a short rest. Then the same meeting again. You lean on the rail and feel the tower share its calm weight into your arms. The oar bump returns, deep and slow, like a steady hand on the day. Water slides around posts and takes back the barnacle line. The bright coins of shell look farther under. A fish writes a quick silver mark and vanishes into the fuller run. Weed straightens and lifts, the long leaves rolling like cloth in a mild wash. You hold a palm to the stone and feel the wall hum low and even, as if it has kept this tune for years. Under the floor, a rat changes mind and stays inside its dark pocket. The oar bump carries up the shaft and rests in your ear. You glance at the tide board below the slit. The dark band rises a finger, then two, then holds for a moment as the next long sheet arrives. You take the bowl and sip. Water tastes like clean stone and clay. You break off a bit of bread and let the flour soften on your tongue until it turns mild and sweet. Oil from the lamp keeps its soft fruit smell by the post. The oar bump speaks again, deep and slow, and your shoulders loosen. You ease the shutter open a little more. The hinge lets out one small sigh and falls quiet. Damp air moves in, cool across your face. The lens stays shaded, a clear bowl turned mouth down, untroubled by sun. A coil of line near the door shifts a little as the moving air reaches it. Far below, rope in the water answers the new pull with a soft roll along wood. The oar bump repeats, deep and slow, and keeps the room in measure. Inland, dust at the road edge lifts and then settles again. A cart stands with its pole on the ground, where it has stood all noon. A woman sets a jar on a step and ties a cloth over its mouth. A goat noses a weed and chews in a small circle of shade. The chain on the key no longer speaks. Iron lies easy in its bed. From between the piles, the broad rising smooths the flats, and the oar bump takes the work of counting from the chain and carries it well. You set the rope coil in better order, more for the hands than for need. Turn, lay, each loop leaning kindly on the next. Hemp leaves a fine dust on your palm and a dry, grassy smell. You rub it off with a fold of cloth and hang the cloth back on its peg so the wind will not fetch it. The rail's edge presses a calm line into your forearm. The oar bump comes again, deep and slow, and the tower seems to breathe with it, though you do not call it that. You open the wax once more for a short mark, water returning smooth, chain quiet, oar bump begun, deep and slow. The stylus makes a dry whisper across the warm leaf. You close and tie. Brass on the lamp band gives a gentle heat, like bread near a hearth, then cools under your hand. Seaweed crackles only now and then, a small sound under the stronger hush of the water. The oar bump moves through the stone and through you. You lean both forearms on the sill and let the harbor fill your eyes without strain. The broad, dark sheet thickens into the inner lanes. Posts shorten as the band rises. Boats lift. The ribs that showed at noon go quiet underwater. Planks take shine. A rope tail trails a line of bubbles and then disappears. The smell stays clean, like clay rinsed with rain. Salt keeps its simple edge. The oar bump returns deep and slow, and each time it comes, it feels like a hand set gently on a table. You stand at the outer notch and let the rail hold your weight. Stone presses cool along your ribs through the coat. The sky shows no hurry. Gulls tilt and ride the soft air moving off the water's face. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. Your small list sits in quiet order. The chain's old hush is gone to rest. In its place, the oar bump keeps the hour deep and slow, repeating with space between notes, even and kind. The harbor wears its water once more. Flats turn to channels, and channels join. The last bright patches of wet sand lose their glare and go to dull brown under the dark film. Weed stands long and free. Posts hold their steady work. You stroke the rail with your thumb and feel the fine salt crust turn to powder. You taste the grain of it and then forget it. Far below, wood meets wood with that round sound again. The oar bump carries the evening forward, deep and slow, while you watch the smooth rising finish, its first return, and the tower settles to the new calm weight of water. The oar bump holds the hour as the broad sheet keeps coming, smooth and sure. You rest both forearms on the warm rail and watch water slide over stone like silk laid flat. The dark band deepens along the inner piles, and soft foam licks the keystones. Spray lifts and cools your face with a fine sting, then fades to a clean damp. Salt sits on your tongue, plain and simple, and a clay note rides under it, like a jar rinsed and set to dry. Inside the shaft, the lighthouse door gives one calm thud in its frame, a round sound that settles the moment and makes the tower feel steady. You follow the first long fingers of water as they smooth the flats. Channels that were dark threads turn to slow rivers, and the last bright patches of sand sink under a thin skin. Weed that lay like green cloth stands again and wavers, leaf after leaf, like slow hands greeting the day. A gull folds its wings and lands on the rising skin, then lifts a foot and lets the other float. Far on the road, a neighbor closes a gate and the noise stays small, held by the damp air. Down inside, the door thuds once more, wood to wood, gentle and sure, then rests. Boats float free and turn a little, their ribs now quiet under water. The tar seams lose their dull face and take a soft shine. A rope tail that had sprawled on wet ground lifts and drags a faint line of bubbles before it sinks. You taste foam on the air, new and clean. Spray touches your wrist and leaves a cool ring under the wool. The oar bump answers again from below, deep and slow, and the sound rounds the edges of the room. After it settles, the door gives another calm thud that runs through the stone like a low, friendly drum. You pull the shutter wider by a hand. The hinge lets out a thin sigh and then holds the panel quiet. The lens sits shaded, cool and clear, and the brass cap carries a mild warmth like bread set near a hearth. Beeswax from the tablet keeps its soft, sweet trace on your fingers. You rub thumb to thumb, and the smell rises and fades. The rail's grain presses into your forearm with a dry comfort. Beyond the slit, water coats the key blocks until they look oiled and dark. Foam edges kiss the stepstones and slide away. Inside the shaft, the door's round thud returns once, soft as a nod. You ease the wax tablet onto your knee and mark the change with slow care. Broad lift through keys, silk over stone, foam clean on air, boats turning gentle. The stylus scratches with a dry hush, and charcoal dust kisses your skin. You tie the cord and lay the leaves flat beside the lamp. Oil keeps its light fruit smell, warm but not hot, and the wick trim rests in its place like a small silver tooth. A rat under the floor shifts in its run and then keeps still. From far off, a goat coughs in the yard, and the sound dies in the damp. When the tower settles again, the door gives a calm thud, round and low. You walk the catwalk once in a circle, not to hurry it, only to see the harbor from each small change of angle. The wood under your sandals holds steady, a known feel with just enough give. You lean where the rail curves and watch the foam draw lace across the mouth of the steps, then smooth to a darker shine. Spray finds your cheek with a soft cool. Salt cuts a thin line at the corners of your mouth. The air tastes like stone washed clean. The oar bump reaches you again from below, and when it fades, the door answers with its one sure thud, as if the tower were clearing its throat and then smiling. You look inland, and the roads wear a darker band where the wet air has laid a hand. Dust turns to weight and sits. A woman lifts a jar and moves it under a lintel, careful and easy. Two boys stand with their sandals in their hands and watch the water touch the lowest step. They do not shout. Smoke from a clay stove lies low and straight along a wall before it rises. Tar smell softens where spray cools the roofs. Inside the shaft, the door gives its slow, round thud again, and the tower's ribs seem to settle a finger deeper into the rock. You bring your palm to the outer stone and feel where heat and damp meet and make a mild skin. The wall hums in a way you know, a quiet line that runs through your bones without push. You stroke a salt crust from the rail and let the flakes fall like pale snow. Foam moves closer, then pauses, then moves again. A hull turns on its line and faces the opening, the stern lifting once, then lying easy. The oar bump sounds again, deep and slow, and finds the same pocket in the air. After it, the door gives a calm thud inside the shaft, soft, round, and complete. You drink from the bowl and taste stone and faint clay under the cool. The water sits easy, then leaves. You break a piece of bread and hold it to the steam at the slit, so the damp will soften it a little. It turns sweet in the mouth as you chew. You keep your coat buttoned at the throat where spray sometimes finds you. The lampshade keeps the lens clean, and a fine mist beads on the brass band and then runs in thin threads. The door gives its one calm thud again, and in that small, solid sound, the whole room seems to take a full seat. You straighten the coil of rope by the threshold. turn by turn, not from need, but from the wish to keep things in kind order. Hemp presses its fine roughness into your fingers and leaves a grassy dust. You tuck the tail under and pull it snug. A gull's wing slants near the slit and leaves a single white quill mark on the light. Foam drifts and pops near the steps, and the spray on your face dries to salt. The oar bump sounds from below, a deep, round touch of wood on wood. When it passes, the door thuds again, friendly as a hand on a table. You rest the spyglass against your cheek and let the cool brass meet the line of bone. Through the tube, the keys look like black bread under a thin sheet of oil. Water slides over every edge and lays itself flat. A pot lip that shone before is gone under a dark skin. A line of weeds now makes a low wave, then settles. The glass fogs a little from your warm skin. You lift it away and wipe it with a clean corner of cloth. In the pause that follows, the door gives its calm thud, and the tower feels right from sill to floor. You set the glass down and put both hands on the rail. Wood holds firm and dry. Its grain rises under your palms like slow water. Foam tastes like salt on the air. Spray cools your face, then dries and leaves a fine edge. Boats float free and turn, lines slackening, then catching, then slackening again. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. The small list sits easy inside you, each word finding a place in this room, in this hour. The oar bump comes one more time, deep and slow, and fades into the damp. Then the lighthouse door gives a final calm thud inside its frame, round and low, and the sound rests in the stone while the water keeps sliding over the keys like silk laid flat. The water keeps sliding over the keys like silk laid flat, and you set your hand to the lamp. You open the shade, trim the wick, and touch the fire. The flame finds the thread and grows to a small, steady crown. You hear a gentle hiss, kind and low, like warm sand poured from a shallow bowl. Oil scent rises, soft and sweet. Glass takes heat and feels faintly hot under your careful palm. The beam washes the harbor with soft gold. In your chest, the memory of the door's calm thud moves once, round and quiet, and reminds you to keep the light clear and kind. You loosen the hinge on the inner hood and slide it back by finger widths until the lens shows its full circle. Cloth meets glass with a slow brush. Soot leaves a thin line on the cloth edge, then none at all. The brass crown carries its mild warmth like bread set near a hearth. Oil sits still in the bowl without ripple. The flame holds its shape and length as you lift the trim knife, shave a grain, and set the knife down. The gentle hiss remains, even and faithful, a thread you can follow without looking. You walk the catwalk with one hand on the rail. Wood grain presses fine lines into your skin. Mist climbs from the water and cools your cheeks. You taste salt on the air and a touch of fig smoke from a low cook fire inland. The beam turns and paints the rising haze with gold so soft it feels like cloth laid over a shoulder. A gull settles on the outer post and makes no sound. Far below, a boat rope answers the slow tide with a small rub. The gentle hiss rides beside you, always the same, the tower's quiet song. You ease a shutter notch to keep the weather out of the lens room. The slot breathes a little and then holds. A drop gathers on the lower edge of the glass and slides down the pane in a clear path, then loses itself on the sill. The lamp's hood takes your fingers and gives back comfort. Metal not too hot, not too cool. You touch the wick rod to make sure it lies clean and straight. The hiss keeps its kind note. Inland, a neighbor coughs once and the sound dies at the wall. You check the oil depth with the dipstick. The slim wood enters the bowl and comes up shining. You lift the little can with both hands and pour with slow care. Oil smells warm and clean, with a soft seed scent. One thread spills over the rim and runs like honey along the groove. You catch it with cloth and it vanishes into weave. The flame rises a finger and then finds its level. The hiss deepens a shade, rounder now as if pleased. Down at the quay, oars brush hulls with quiet bumps, slow and even. You bring the wax tablet to the post and sit for a moment. Beeswax holds its faint honey trace. Charcoal dust darkens your tips. The stylus moves with a dry whisper. Mist building, lamp lit, beam soft, harbor gold, oars low. You fold the leaf and tie the string so the marks will rest. The weight of stone around you feels steady and kind. In memory, the door's sure thud lands again, wood to wood, and the small echo sits like a pebble settled at the bottom of a bowl. The hiss floats over it and smooths the surface. You rise and circle the lens again. Tiny beads have formed on the outer face where mist tries to hold. You brush them away with a clean corner of cloth. The cloth takes a faint wet and cools your fingers. The glass shows a sharp path of light again. A rat under the floor shifts and stops. The goat by the keeper's yard nudges a pail and stands still. Rope on the inner peg hangs in a neat loop, just as you left it at noon. The hiss keeps its single note, faithful as a rope creak in a slow tide. You drink from the bowl by the post. Water tastes like clean stone, easy and plain. You take a small heel of bread and soften it under your tongue until the grains loosen and turn sweet. A fig sliver follows with quiet sugar and a soft pull of skin. You wipe your fingers on the hem and set the bowl back where shadow stays cool. The lamp's brass band feels smoother now, with a thin veil of heat. The beam gently swings through the room, touches the floorboards, and moves on. The hiss does not leave you. It holds the hour. You check the vent slits so smoke will not choose the lens. Each slit opens a little, then stops, obedient and calm. You shake a pinch of ash from the trim cup and set it back. The stone floor under you gives its dry, steady answer to your weight. You fold the cleaning cloth and place it under the same smooth stone you use for the wax. Dust lies in the corner by the hinge, harmless and gray. You leave it for morning. The hiss settles your shoulders while the beam strokes the mist, soft and gold like a hand moved slowly over water. You lift the spyglass and rest cool brass against your cheek. Through the tube, the harbor wears a thin sheen. Quays that looked black at noon now glow with damp. The traveler's road shines as if a clear skin has been laid on it. A late boat lies free at its stone, bow turned out, oar blades tucked. Tar warms on the roofs and sends up a sweet thread. In the alley, a child's wooden toy stays where it was set. No one moves it yet. The gentle hiss lives in your ear as a small river of sound. You coil the spare line, turn by turn, until every ring lies even. Hemp presses light roughness into your palm and leaves a grassy smell that lingers. You hang the coil from its peg and draw the tail through the loop, snug and neat. The oil can gets its cap. You check the seal and feel the round lip click home. A scrap of cloth goes into the box of rags. The room holds its order. The lamp thanks the care with a calm, steady crown. The hiss keeps its measure, low and kind. You carry the bowl to the sill and set it near the cool edge. A film has formed where mist comes and rests against the stone. You run a finger along and feel the skin break into clean wet. The finger dries and leaves salt fine as dust. You taste it and accept its simple truth. The beam crosses your hand, and your skin looks warm gold for a moment before the light moves on. The hiss comforts you the way a rope creak can comfort a boat at anchor in an easy night. You open the shutter a hand's width to let the beam wash the outer haze. The hinge gives a small, friendly answer and then holds. The mist near the mouth shines as if a thin fabric had been raised and caught the light. You tilt the lens by a breath and see the pool below brighten in a soft circle. A gull flicks one wing and rests. The goat knocks a wooden scoop and quiet returns at once. The hiss draws a smooth line through the silence. You rub the brass crown with a corner of clean cloth, just once, to lift prints. Metal smells faint and good, a clear scent with no smoke in it. The crown gives back a soft warmth to your knuckles. Your coat sleeve brushes the glass and picks up a touch of heat that fades by the time your hand lowers. You watch the flame steady itself after the move. No shake, no spit, only the same length and color. The hiss flows on, sure and level. You take up the wax again and write a few final marks. Lamp, sound gentle, oil sweet, glass clear, beam gold across mist. The stylus leaves neat tracks that catch a little shine from the lamp. You close the leaf and tie. You breathe through your nose slowly, not as a cue, just a way to keep easy. And the oil scent sets calm under the salt. The memory of the door thud returns once more, friendly and round, as if the tower itself were nodding. The hiss weaves with that remembered thud and makes a quiet braid inside you. You stand at the outer slit, both hands on the rail. Stone is cool, dry, and sure. The harbor wears its water again and holds it. Ropes hang at right lengths. Hooks face the same way. Shadows lie where they should. The beam moves, touches the key, and then slips into the mist beyond, gilding edges and leaving them. You taste the air, plain and good. The hiss stays with you, loyal and low. You turn the wick a grain lower, then restore it, and the crown of flame answers with the smallest change, and then balance. The lamp is your work and your company. You smooth the cloth over the lens one last time, careful and slow, so no edge of thread remains. The brass rim warms your fingers, and then lets the warmth go. A neighbor's cough rolls once from a lane and fades. The oar bump from the key returns, deep and slow, and drifts off until only the hiss is left. You give the shutter a light push so it will not sway if wind comes late. The bar settles. The hinge rests. The room holds even temperature from stone to ceiling. Your small list is complete. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. Each word finds its place in this hour. The beam pours through the mist without hard edges. It is quiet light on quiet surfaces. The hiss is the final sound you keep. You close your eyes for a count and open them to the same gold room. No rush and no lack. The flame keeps its neat shape. Oil lies like clear amber under the crown. The rail waits for your hand and gives a clean line of grain when you take it. Outside, the harbor answers with small touches. The soft brush of water at stone, a gull lifting, a rope turning in its ring. The gentle hiss holds the moment together. You lean lightly on the rail and let your weight find its level. The lamp warms the glass to a kind heat. You take your hand away without hurry. The mist takes the beam and wears it well. The lighthouse door thuds once in memory, round and sure, not heard now, but known. The sign of sound wood and true frame. The hiss stays, even and tender, while the soft gold washes the harbor, and the night gathers its edges without strain. The soft gold from the lamp stays steady as you ease onto the low stool beside the lens. The wax tablet rests across your knees, warm on one side and cool on the other. You hold the slim stylus and feel the wood light and sure in your fingers. Charcoal dust kisses your thumb and makes a faint gray shine. Sea air slips through the shutter and cools your neck like a damp cloth laid for comfort. When the point touches the wax, a light scratch begins, small and regular, and the sound folds the room into one calm place. You set your first line where the harbor turned again to water. The stylus moves slow, and the mark keeps its edge. Wax gives way with a soft pull, like thin cheese under a knife. Oil from the lamp smells sweet, and the brass near your hand holds a mild heat. Glass above you feels faintly hot when you brush it with the back of your wrist. Then it cools. The scratch stays even, a thin hush that slides with your hand and lets the day take shape inside the small grooves. You note the high touch at the key steps, then the oar bump that came back, deep and slow. You add the quiet moment when chains stopped rubbing stone and weeds sank under the water again. No numbers press you here, only short lines and a few simple signs. The wood of the stylus warms against your skin and leaves a faint scent like dried stalks. Salt on your lip tastes clean, and the scratch continues, careful and kind. A gull turns once through the mist and gives a low call that hangs and fades. Far inland, a neighbor clears a throat, then all is still. Below the floor, a rat shifts along its run and pauses when your chair gives a small sound. The goat by the keeper's yard bumps a board and settles. Tar on the roof sends up a soft, sweet thread, and the lamp's shade glows like bread crust near a fire. Through it all, the stylus keeps its hush, the same thin grain on wax, patient and sure. You lift the tablet and angle it to the light, then set it down again. The lines shine, then dull as they cool. Your hand returns to the rail of the stool and finds the wood smooth from years of use. The stone under your feet answers with steady weight, neither warm nor cold, just certain. You draw a small cross where the water first slid back from the flats, and you write 2 short words beside it to hold the turn. The scratch marks the moment and rests a breath, then starts again. You reach for the bowl on the sill and take a small drink. Water tastes of clean stone and clay. A heel of bread waits in the cloth. You soften it on your tongue, and it turns sweet and simple, with a dust of flour that sticks to your lip. A fig piece follows with quiet sugar that eases the mouth. You wipe your fingers on the hem and set the bowl back in its ring of cool shadow. When you lean in again, the stylus lifts the day where you left it, light scratch after light scratch, like a cricket heard far off across a field. Mist brushes the slit and leaves a thin skin on the inner glass. You polish with a soft square of cloth until the circle clears. The cloth smells faintly of beeswax and smoke from the noon stove. Your sleeve gathers a touch of damp, then dries in the lamp's warm air. The beam turns and lays a gold path over the page, then moves away. You follow with your eyes, and the scratch resumes, steady like oars brushing a hull. You write the harbor signs in small, neat order. Weed lifted and waved, boats floated free and turned, ropes loosened and tightened. The door in the shaft thudded once to settle wood in wood. Each note holds a simple thing that hands can feel and eyes can trust. Rope, lamp, bowl, sand, cloth, stone, water, wood, dust, bread. The list breathes inside the wax without rush. The stylus keeps its quiet rasp, a sound so even it becomes part of the room. like the grain of the floor under your sandals. You pause to listen to the wide dark beyond the wall. The sea gives only small touches now, a soft brush at the steps, a single knock far under a key. Someone moves a jar and sets it down on a wooden board. The board answers with a low, pleasant sound. A chain settles, then lies still. You taste salt again, then a hint of fig smoke that wanders up the tower like a thin ribbon. Your fingers return to the stylus, and the scratch begins anew, light and regular, the room's slow clock. You smooth a corner of the wax with the flat of the blade and feel the surface turn silk soft under a thin crust. The scent of warmed beeswax rises and settles in your nose, clean and sweet without weight. You draw one long line to hold the hour when mist gathered and slowly thinned. You dot where gulls hung on still wings, then write a short word for the calm air. The stylus moves without hurry, each mark small as a seed, each groove holding what words alone cannot. The scratch keeps company with your pulse, unforced, untroubled. You rest your left palm on the tablet's edge and feel the wood frame cool and straight as a rule. The lens above hums faintly with heat you cannot hear but only know by touch when your arm grazes the brass band. The wax receives the last notes, depth felt by line, rope aligned, beam gold through haze. You draw a tiny curl for foam at the steps, then close the passage with a plain stroke. The stylus scratch thins as the marks grow fewer, a whisper upon a whisper, until the space between sounds is wider than the sound itself. You tie the tablet with its short cord and lay a clean cloth over it, so dust will not find the cuts. Charcoal shades your thumb. You rub it once and let the gray remain. Oil in the lamp sits like clear amber, warm and ready. You check the wick with care and lower the shade by a hand's width. Sea air cools the back of your neck again, kind and even, and the room keeps its soft heat near the lens. The goat coughs once, then is still. The rat under the floor moves on. The last faint scratch returns for a moment as you write a single closing note. Light good, harbor calm. And then the stylus rests. You listen to the tower hold its shape. Stone stays true. Wood stays quiet. The beam turns and washes the harbor with a gentle gold that touches water. Then stone, then haze, then nothing. Your hands are clean but carry bread flour and beeswax and salt, faint and mixed. You slide the tablet into its box, set the stylus beside it, and close the lid with a low, easy sound. The memory of the day sits inside those small grooves where wax cooled and kept your marks. You smooth the cloth on the lens with 2 slow passes, no more. Glass shows a soft shine, and your breath remains low in your chest, steady, unthrown. You lean on the rail and feel the grain print tiny lines into your skin. The lamp gives a warm scent, and the sea gives back cool air. Nothing presses the night but quiet work and good order. Somewhere below, a rope turns once in its ring and makes a shy murmur, then fades. You look down the shaft and see the door, shut well inside its frame. No sound comes from it now, though your mind holds the single thud from earlier, round as a drum felt through the palm. You stand and gather the cloths and fold them into their box. Dust in the corner waits for morning. Your shoulders loosen, and the room feels level from stone to ceiling. The wax has cooled. The page is safe. You sit again for a last look at the harbor. Water lies dark and kind, with a pale seam where the beam runs. The air carries salt and the mild smell of tar, not heavy. A gull lifts and settles, more shadow than bird. You lay your hand over the tablet box as if to weigh it, and the wood gives you calm weight back. The stylus rests by your fingers, quiet and straight, and the room holds its hush. You let the night take its slow place around you. The lamp hum is soft, the gold halo slow and sure. The sea brushes stone and draws away, small and even. You close your eyes and see the thin grooves, the neat signs, the day held inside them without noise. When you open your eyes, nothing has moved out of true. The stylus scratch is gone now, but its gentle line remains inside your ears, as if written there too, light and regular, while the tower stands, and the harbor keeps the calm you have marked. The last thin scratches have cooled in the wax, and you rise from the stool and move to the catwalk. Wood under your palm holds a fine grain, dry and sure. You lean against the rail and feel stone carry your weight without strain. The lamp keeps its calm hiss beside your shoulder, the sound round and even, like sand poured through a narrow neck. Above the lens, glass shows a faint warmth that does not press. You lift your eyes to the blue-black sky and find a pale tail there, a chalk line laid with a tired hand, steady enough to be known. Air from inland drifts across the tower, and tastes of smoke and bread. Somewhere in the dark, a clay oven has given out its day's heat, and the crust scent hangs with a soft sweetness. The sea adds a thread of salt that rests on the tongue and leaves no thirst. The rail stays cool. Your sleeve rubs it with a small brush that you feel more than hear. The lamp's hiss holds the space between these small pieces of night. High above, the faint tail points where it will, not asking for anything, not hurrying. You turn a little and settle your forearms on the rail. Cloth at your elbows creases and stays. The catwalk boards answer with a mild give. They have learned your weight and keep faith. A gull rides the dark as a paler shade and then is gone. Far down the shore, a bell hums one soft note and fades into water, as if the sea had swallowed a word and chosen to keep it. The hiss at your side does not change, even as the bell's memory loosens and goes. Below, the harbor lies calm, its black broken by slow gold where the beam turns. Ropes hang true at their rings, and a boat rope answers the tide with a short, kind rub, then rests. The oar bump that held the noon hour returns sometimes, and then not at all. Key stones keep their damp shine. Weed keeps to its place. You taste a thread of tar from the roofs, and a trace of fig smoke from a brazier you cannot see. The lamp's hiss makes a soft wall for your thoughts, neither high nor low, only present. You think of the month of Mark's cooling in warm rooms. Wax tablets stacked under cloth, char lines on board. Small signs cut for the day the harbor emptied, and small signs cut for the day it filled again. Numbers kept to the side, simple and few, not to crowd the hand. The box that holds the pages smells of wood and beeswax and a touch of dust that came in on a sleeve. Inside those grooves lies the slow story of water and stone, written in a house that keeps heat like a loaf keeps its center. The goat by the keeper's yard shifts once and lets the rope creak a finger's length. The sound settles at once and becomes part of the ground. A neighbor coughs in a lane and shuts a door with care, wood to wood, not loud. Under your boots, a seam in the board lifts a splinter that brushes your sandal and then gives up. The cold finds your knuckles and holds them without malice. You rub one hand over the other and feel the fine grain of skin grow warm again. The lamp answers with its same soft hiss, a companion that does not ask and does not leave. You touch the lens rim with 2 fingers to be sure the heat stays kind. Glass offers a gentle warmth, steady and contained. The wick sits neat. The shade keeps clear of soot. Oil in the bowl shines like calm amber. You lift the small can and feel its good weight move from palm to palm, then set it down and ease the trim knife an inch so the edge shows silver and clean. Cloth rides over brass with a low brush and leaves no lint. The hiss does not waver. It is the tower's quiet heart made into sound. Shore sand beyond the quay holds pale strips where the beam lays itself thin and then pulls away. Between strips, darkness takes its right share and rests. You taste fine salt on your teeth and the last hint of bread that lingered from inland air. The rope loop on the inner peg hangs even, tail tucked through and smoothed. You think of the bowl near the sill, the water cool as stone and waiting without need. You think of bread, the simple heel wrapped in cloth for later, and of fig soft as old wood, sweet without show. The comet tail stays, smaller than before, but clear enough that your eyes do not search. You lean and let your weight find balance. The catwalk rail takes the slow press and accepts it. A rat under the floor, quick at noon, keeps quiet now. Only once does it shift a kernel of grit that whispers and stops. A reed basket down in the yard clicks as it cools and then is still. The lamp's hiss threads through these tiny pieces and binds them together, the way a thin cord binds lists and pages and hangs them from a nail. You move one hand along the rail until your palm meets a shallow dent cut by years of use. The dent holds your hand like a cup. Wood gives back a faint scent of sun and salt, even in the dark. You look again at the tail, at the pale brush on the blue-black, and you do not count. Counting has already been done and set in wax and cloth. Now there is only watching, which is another kind of work. The hiss keeps its line, even as the wind rises a finger and falls again. A strip of cloud wanders over the horizon and sets a gray seam across the water. The beam finds it and lays gold along its edge, then moves on. You think of houses where the month sits safe, of warm walls with smoke marks above the lamps, of bread crusts cooling on wooden boards. You can almost taste the sweet ash on a cup, the clay lip smooth and sure against the mouth. Someone turns in a bed and settles a blanket. Someone lays a bowl on a shelf and leaves it turned upside down to keep dust away. The hiss in the lens room is the same as the hush in those rooms, each in its place, neither asking the other for more. A small drop gathers at the lower hinge and releases, a clear round that lands on stone and vanishes into a mark left by many such drops. The sound is too light to hear from where you stand, but your hand feels the rail answer in a way that says it happened. You slacken the shudder of finger so the pain will not take wet from its own breath. Cloth wipes once, twice, slow and even, and the glass returns to clear. The lamp thanks the care by doing what it has done all night, neither higher nor lower, the hiss unchanged. You draw your coat close at the throat and feel the seam rest against skin worn smooth by salt. The seam carries a faint smell of smoke from many nights, a library of small fires caught in the same line of cloth. The pockets hold their simple things: string coiled in a ring, a button, a folded scrap, and nothing presses. You run your thumb along the string's twist until it warms and softens. The rope below answers the tide once more, and then falls quiet. The hiss keeps the hour without a hand. At the very edge of night, where sea and sky trade places, a slow boat turns its bow and slides toward the outer water. No splash, only the suggestion of a keel line as the beam glances and passes. You rest your chin on the back of your wrist and feel the bone solid and kind. The world shows its edges without weight: stone, water, wood, cloth, rope. Each part knows its task. You wait in that order, letting it fill you with a calm that does not need words. The goat lifts and sets a hoof. A shutter far inland answers with a thin clap. The bell down the shore does not return, though you hold its soft note in memory, the way the sea holds a shell print for a while, and then lets it go. The comet tail stays pale and small, as if it knew it has been seen enough. You taste salt, then near sweet air passing from ovens now cooling. The lamp stays with you, faithful companion, patient as a friend who understands silence, its hiss an easy line that runs through the center of everything you can name. You slide your hand from wood to brass and back to wood, feeling the change from warm to warmer and then to cool again. The rail accepts your weight as smoothly as a bowl accepts water poured in a slow thread. You hold yourself there and let time drift past like a long plank carried by a steady river. Out beyond the beam, the night keeps its great, simple shape. You do not need to touch it to know it is sound. The hiss makes a small, living river close by, just enough to mark where you are. When at last you step inward, the lens room greets you with its dim circle and the low gold that coats the floor. The rope loop on the peg shows as a dark ring, neat and ready. The oil can sit where you set it, cap true, mouth clean. Dust lies quiet in the corner, and you leave it for morning. You rest your palm one last time on the warm brass band and feel the lamp give back a quiet promise. Its hiss fills the room, not louder, only nearer, like a soft coat laid over your shoulders. You look once more through the slit and give the sky a small nod for its thin chalk tail. The harbor answers with a gentle brush of water at stone, no more than that. Inland air brings the last thread of bread from cooling ovens and lays it over the salt like a cloth. You hold the rail and keep still until the beam completes another slow turn. The hiss stays true, simple, and kind. You let the night settle around you as lightly as flour falling from a sifter, each grain finding its place without hurry. The bell's one soft note is only a memory now, but it rests beside you like a smooth pebble in a pocket. Your month of marks sits in warm rooms, safe in wood and wax. The lighthouse holds its shape from base to lantern. The lamp keeps its calm hiss. The comet keeps its pale tail. When you close the shutter by a hand's width, the hinge gives a friendly brush and then is quiet. The gold circle continues to wash the mist in the water, slow and sure, while you stand in the gentle sound and let the silence finish the hour.